What is up, y'all? Dan back at you with another video. It's been a while, however, with the Vault of Glass coming out, figured it'd be time for me to just make a video. Now that we have the TWAB, now that we have pretty much everything that's going to be happening, we know going into the day one raid this Saturday for the Vault of Glass remastered or return, whatever you want to call it. Vault of Glass coming back. The very first raid from Destiny 1 is back. We're having the world's first race again. Of course, your boy will be participating in it. And I've had a lot of questions on my Twitch stream for a while asking what do I think you should bring in, and at this point I think it's best for me to finally put together a video, one, talking about what I think you should bring in and what I'm going to be bringing in. All these recommendations are things that I think will be viable at one point or another or multiple points in the raid, and I think you'll be safe unless something gets thrown at us out of left field, bringing all these weapons in and having them utilized in some form of the raid. Now, with that being said, these are only my choices. There are going to be other choices out there that you probably see other people suggest, but this is just a few things that I think you should bring in as far as weapons. These are just cover your basics for every encounter. I'm talking Oracles, Confluxes, Templar, Gatekeepers, Atheon, Foreman, Spire, Gorgons, pretty much the entire raid. You'll be able to move one or two of these weapons into your slots and find some sort of success. In no particular order, we're going to start off with Witherhoard. Witherhoard is an exotic grenade launcher that applies a Taken Blight wherever you shoot it. It stays there for a few seconds, and if something dies to it, that enemy then drops a new Taken Blight, and the dot effect continues again. Now, what's really nice about this is you can cut off an area and also applies pretty good damage to targets. You can also swap to another weapon and apply additional damage while the Witherhoard is ticking. This will be good in many areas of the raid where you're needing to hold down a spot and stop enemies from moving forward. Thinking Oracles, Gatekeepers, encounters like that. With the Catalyst, you get auto-loading holster, so you never need to worry about reloading the weapon. Pairing this weapon with any weapon that can make Warmind cells will make this weapon potency even higher. If you haven't finished the Catalyst, I would highly suggest doing so. Next up, we have Heritage. Heritage is a kinetic slug shotgun from the Deepstone Crypt raid. Now, I know that slugs probably won't have much use in this raid in comparison to Deepstone Crypt. However, I feel like that's mainly going to be for DPS strats and DPS scenarios. This weapon will still be really good for single target damage on higher health enemies. If you get one with recombination, you can destroy a lot of lower tier adds with your energy weapon, then switch over when you have a Wyvern or Overload or Praetorian, whatever they kind of are in the raid. Swap over to your recombination Heritage and deal a lot of damage in a very short amount of time in a single shot. Also, I believe the Oracles and Gorgons are going to have a ton of health, way more than they had in the original Vault of Glass. I think this might be a really good choice for getting those enemies taken care of and those Oracles taken care of. You could also replace this with first in, last out if you have Warple on it. At this point, it's just choosing which one you prefer, but personally, I'll be taking in Heritage. For the next weapon, we are going to go for a DPS choice, a rapid fire frame sniper rifle. Both Templar and Atheon will be mid to long range DPS encounters unless they change them a whole lot. Because of this, you're going to want to snipe them. 140 RPM snipers generally will do the most damage in the shortest amount of time, so things like Supremacy or Triple Tap and a magazine increase like Extended Mag or Appended Mag will allow you to do some really nice damage to bosses in a short amount of time. Also, if you have an Icolel sniper laying around, you still do really good damage with that one, especially if you have 4 times the charm and high impact reserves. Unless things change too much, these are 2 snipers I suggest having ready to go for day one. You could also probably add in Succession if you have one with recombination and Vorpal. However, I do think with the faster firing snipers, you might have a better chance slaying the bosses a little bit faster with those. Our fourth weapon is Black Talon. Black Talon is an exotic sword that when using its heavy attack allows you to toss a void projectile at targets. When getting kills, you also receive ammo back every few kills. Void weapons are a must in this raid in my opinion, since most Vex in this raid, at least originally, had void shields. Unless changed, mostly all the shields will still say void, so with that being said, you're going to want to have some void weapons to strip those shields quickly and destroy the enemies faster. Especially with the removal of chip damage to swords, matching elements is most important for quick kills. Black Talon offers high damage to a single target like Praetorians and Wyverns. Also, if there's champions, it can do high damage to them as well. Depending on the oracles, I also don't see why this can't be a good choice for oracles as well. For our 5th weapon, we're going to be bringing in Threaded Needle. Now, Linear Fusion Rifles got a 15% buff this season to its damage and a 20% buff to its ammo. So with that being said, I think it can be a pretty good option for our DPS scenarios with Atheon and Templar. If you have one with Vorpal laying around, I'd have that ready to go for both of those encounters just in case. Now, I would probably suggested Sleeper Simulant, but unfortunately, it didn't receive the 15% buff like its legendary counterparts. And even though Bungie is aware of the mistake and they'll be fixing it, unfortunately, I don't think it'll be ready in time for Vault of Glass. If things can change within that time, I can see Sleeper being an option for oracles and DPS, but until then, Threaded Needle is the way to go. Number 6, Tractor Cannon. Tractor Cannon is really good in underlevel content like Day 1 raids and contest modifier content because it allows you to do 30% more damage to a target, which is really nice when you're doing a lot less damage than normal because of contest mode. You can also suppress targets, push back those targets, and allow the entire team to get rid of an enemy faster because of this. This is something that I think would be really great when paired with a person on your team using Wither Horde or Black Talon. Pushing enemies away from location like the Confluxes and Oracles and Gatekeeper encounters will be much easier and safer if you have somebody running around with Tractor Cannon. It also gives you a speed boost, which helps you dodge damage and get to a location in a faster time. Its ammo economy is also really high, and its usage is great for practically 80% or maybe even more of the raid. Make sure one person on your fire team has Tractor Cannon ready to go. Number 7 may be the most important option to make sure you and a few other people on your raid team bring into this raid day 1. A breech-loaded grenade launcher with blinding grenades. I've talked about it on Twitter, on my Twitch stream, many places I've talked about it. If the rumors are true, we're getting Wyvern in the raid. If you've done Glassway, you know how annoying the Wyverns are and how annoying they can be when there's multiple of them flying around, or not really flying around, but walking around. However, if someone has a grenade launcher with blinding grenades, then they instantly become a joke. Shooting a grenade launcher at a Wyvern, whether directly at them or in their area, will cause them to become blinded for about 4 seconds, giving you and your team ample time to deal with them. Due to the animal economy of the grenade launchers and no downtime on reapplying the blinding effect, you can simply spam it at a Wyvern until it's dead. You can bring the new GL Empty Vessel and pair with some Solar Warmind builds or the new Kinetic GL Ignition code, but personally, I'll be bringing in the good old-fashioned Truth-Teller. Truth-Teller's been around much longer than the other ones. It's also the only one that's void. That alone makes it my choice, depending on the encounter. You can pair it with the seasonal mods that make Void Warmind splash damage, and you're good to go. No matter what though, this is a must-have to bring into the raid, whether it be the Ignition code, Empty Vessel, Truth-Teller. Make sure at least 2 or 3 of your teammates have this weapon. Moving things along, we have number 8 being just a solid primary. There's gonna be a lot of options in this pool, and this is all up to personal preference, but personally I think it's best to have a SMG. Now, depending on your loadout, I think a solid SMG or auto rifle is going to be your best choice. Depending on the encounter, you could also pair this with a scout rifle or a pulse rifle, whatever you're most comfortable using. But for me, I think SMGs are the strongest right now for most of this raid. A lot of the engagements are close to mid-range, right in the strengths of SMGs. My preference is going to be Extraordinary Rendition with Overflow and Frenzy, although I might opt for Escape Velocity with Overflow and Vorpal. Both have the same role, with both offering overflow and a 15% damage perk to go with it. But the bigger magazine and faster rate of fire of escape velocity may be what I decide to go for. You could also go for a energy SMG like Stochastic Variable or Icarus SMG if you want to make Warmind cells off just the SMG itself. Choice is up to you. I'd also suggest having a solid long range option because you're going to be like 20 light below the activity. Sometimes it may not be the best to be very close to a target. This is where those scouts and pulse rifles like I talked about earlier come into play. Since you're going to be 20 light below the activity, you're going to want to have something like the Europa pulse rifle or Hung Jury or Night Watch. Anything that you are really comfortable with and have a solid roll on. This is personal preference, I believe. Just bring something you're comfortable using. Just like our primary, we're going to have something solid in the heavy slot that isn't an exotic depending on the encounter. Many of the encounters are simply waves and waves of ads non-stop while holding down a point. You may want to opt for a machine gun to deal with them. Personally, I'm going to bring a Void LMG like the Seasonal one and Thunderlord. Thunderlord is basically Risk Runner except the machine gun form, the bigger magazine. If things don't change, a machine gun can make its way back into raid loadouts with its ammo economy and being able to shred through a lot of lower tier targets in a short amount of time. I also thought about putting Xenophage here since it is a machine gun for simple target damage, and while I can see that, as long as you have a blind grenade launcher, however, you shouldn't have to rely on Xenophage, but personal preference, if you want to bring Xenophage in this slot and pair with the blind grenade launcher, feel free to. Especially since both of those weapons, especially Xenophage, can make Warmind cells, and those things are just so good in this game currently. Couple honorable mentions before we get to our final weapon. It's definitely going to be Deathbringer. Deathbringer has made its way into a lot of builds and a lot of stuff recently with this catalyst, and depending on the damage encounters and depending on how they're set up, I have this on lock ready to go in case we decide to pull it out. I don't have it in my main weapon loadout, but I have it ready to go for both Atheon and Templar and other areas that might have high health targets or a bunch of ads, especially with the Warmind cell stuff that Void stuff can do this season to go. Also, I would also suggest looking into a couple swords that are not Black Talon, like Falling Guillotine and the new Solar one. However, with all the nerfs to those swords the last couple seasons, not too sure if those are going to be better than Black Talon and just in general for just single target or ad clear. Depending on the changes to particularly Atheon, Deathbringer just may be the best option for damaging Atheon, but it depends on whether or not he takes damage everywhere in his body or just a crit spot. If he does, I can see it being a great damage choice, and I've already got it ready to go, leveled up and everything. However, it and other rockets I don't think are going to be the best choice for Atheon because, like D1, the relic user would normally stand in front of the rest of the team, and if you are too close to the relic user while trying to shoot rockets, particularly something like Galahorn back in the day, that was just going to get you killed every single time. So what most people would do is just jump out of the bubble and just, hip fire it with the tracking rockets over and over. That being said, I don't know, considering all the other weapons and options we have, that to be the best choice. However, like I said, have it ready to go in case it turns out that this is the best choice for Atheon. Now, with that being said, the final option that I would suggest bringing into this raid, no brainer, no questions asked, you could have this in your heavy slot the entire raid and have no issue, is Anarchy. Anarchy is the best heavy for practically every encounter in the game. It can hold down a spot with its arc traps. It lasts for such a long time. Its ammo economy is amazing. It's a great option during a DPS phase like Templar when pairing with the 140 RPM sniper or even slug shotguns. Anarchy is a great option, and I don't think anyone would tell you otherwise. A few things won't be great, probably for oracles, maybe Atheon. If Atheon's changed to have a body or a damaged body like Sanctified Divine where it takes no damage outside of its crit spot, I can see Anarchy not being used much there. But Templars should still be fine to use Anarchy on, and the rest of the raid, maybe even Gorgons. Anarchy might be pretty great on. But make sure you have this weapon, and you'll be set for a majority of the raid. And that's it. If you have any other weapon suggestions, make sure you put them in the comment section. I would love to hear what you think we should bring into the Vault of Glass raid day 1. If you're interested in watching me and my team go through it at launch, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/EpicDan22. Would love to have you there. Thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.